Call in by clicking the link in the stream's description. The professor wants to hear from you.
Beginnings on the cusp. Not too old to adjust. Old dog, new tricks. Remember, I was just a pup. Something dirty in my cup. Clean soul, good car.
Isn't it lovely? I ain't looking back, I'm focused on what's in front of me. Everybody dates a number, but I'm still here luckily. I know that God got me, so I'm in good company. Isn't it lovely?
Welcome, and thank you for joining us. I am Professor Barrett, and this is A Barrett's Thought. And today, we are sponsored by Chops Cars and Print on Demands. Now, if you were like me, when you were young, you got baseball cards, you got football cards, you got wrestling cards, you were just getting cards. And you had that fantasy of one day you were going to be on those cards. Well, I got an easier way. You don't have to be a wrestler. You don't have to be in sports. You can be like the professor and go to Chops Cards. They will make you a custom-made collector card. And when I say the quality is tremendous, they do great work. And they also do other things with your print-on designs. So, because you know the professor, he's going to give you something that is going to be tremendous. He is going to give you 15% off of your entire order. Yes, 15%. The only thing you have to do is put in Bear 15 and you will get, besides amazing work, you'll get 15% off. That is Chops Cards and Print on Demand, your only and the best trading cards out there. Now, today's guest, he is very special to Professor. As most of y'all know, I was blessed to be able to be put into a Hall of Fame. And this gentleman was there to induct me and do the ceremony. And I've gotten just a special place in my heart for him. This is Aaron Rose. Aaron, how are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing absolutely wonderful, Professor. I hope you're doing well, too. And I appreciate you having me on for sure.
Oh, definitely. Like I tell everybody, wrestling is not just the wrestlers. There are so many people that do so many great things and do not get their flowers for it. And one factor that a lot of people don't realize is the commentators and the announcers. They are the play-by-play. They help set up some of the great feuds and give you so much. And I would love for the people to learn more about you and your journey in the wrestling business. So, with that being said, tell me when you first became a fan of wrestling.
Oh gosh, when I first became a fan of wrestling, it goes back all the way to when I would spend weekends with my grandparents up in Carlisle and with my grandfather, my recently passed grandmother. we would we wake up early Saturday mornings and go uptown to this little restaurant called Garrett's Restaurant, and they would have wrestling on the TV for us whenever we walk in, and it was always Memphis wrestling or like WWF Superstars or Wrestling Challenge, depending on the day that we were there. You have Wrestling Challenge on Sundays and Superstars on Saturdays, and that's how I kind of got hooked into it. And my love really amplified though when I got to go to my first match. And my dad was an employee of WLEX in Lexington, and he was one of their programmers there. And at the time in the early 90s, they had their deal going on with NBC where they would have Saturday night's main event and all that going on. So whenever WWF came to town, it would be they would get all kinds of free tickets because they are an NBC affiliate. So we got to go and check that out for my very first time. And one of my first events, Ric Flair was there with the big gold belt, and I believe the main event of the night was like Bret Hart versus the Mountie. But I was hooked. Everything from bell to bell, I was hooked. And we had an agreement when I was a kid that he'd take me to one big show a year, and we would, whether he got free tickets or not, that was kind of his deal, because he was a busy man and he wanted to have family time too, So, and not only did he get tickets to that, but he got tickets to like Sesame Street and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles when they were on stage, like one of the most odd stage shows ever. But I got to go because I was, a Turtles fan too. So a lot of good memories with my dad, and I will forever keep it in my mind that it was my dad and my grandfather that got me into pro wrestling.
That sounds so familiar with my background, so I definitely can relate to that. So from there, how did you translate over into being in the wrestling business?
Well, I've always, no, not always, let me rephrase this. I've always had a knack to be a personable person, and I'm always been outgoing. I was the kid in school that was friends with the jocks, the rednecks. I was friends with everybody. I was friends with the people who didn't have friends. I was friends with the ball players. I was friends with the bandies. That was me. So, that was me growing up. And I got my first opportunity at public speaking kind of thrust into me here, where I was working for the Lexington Men of War hockey team. It was the second hockey team that came into Rupp Arena after the Thoroughblades. And we had our in-crowd PA announcer, which is the person that did all the promotions and stuff. She walked in one day, kind of inebriated. And the general manager said, this is not happening. And she got fired right on the spot. So general manager comes down to me and all the other people that I was with. We were called the Ice Patrol. We shot T-shirts into the crowd and, got the fans pumped up as the game was going. That was us. And he said, hey, would one of you want to give it a shot, be our in-crowd announcer? And I was just like, I'll give it a go. So they put the mic in my hands, and my very first public speaking experience, talking about all these promotions and stuff, was in front of like 4,000 to 5,000 people at Rupp Arena. And it was kind of cool, because if you've been in Rupp, before they put the big jumbotron in the middle, they had the speaker cluster they called Big Bertha. And I got the opportunity to hear my own voice coming out of that. and I got hooked ever since. And it translated to me being the PA announcer for the high school baseball team. I got to do a little bit of PA work with the Lexington Legends baseball team. And then 1 year when I was a DJ for the Lexington Ice Center for like all their open skating, I always stuck around and watched the UK hockey games. And, they're a club sport. All their games started at midnight. And I got to know the people that were running it. And the guy who did the videography for him, his name was Keith Todd. He gave me the opportunity to actually become a play-by-play announcer for the UK hockey team. And I said, Keith, I don't know a dang thing about hockey when it comes to calling it. I've watched it. I know the rules. I don't know a thing about hockey. And he said, man, only the parents are listening, and it's going to be fine. No big deal. He said, you'll learn as you go. I said, okay. And I got into hockey and started doing that for 10 years. And in the middle of all of that, I started working radio as well. So all this is kind of coming together. And one of my friends named Bobby Blade, and you remember Bobby.
Oh, yes.
I'm going to credit him with giving him like my first long-term opportunity at becoming a ring announcer, because he knew I was working radio. I'd worked for a promotion, did a few shows, and that was pretty much it. But, I thought it wasn't going to, grow to be anything ever since. But then he comes to me, he says, hey, they're going to transition me into a manager role, and they're going to be looking for a ring announcer. Would you be interested? And there's a group called Kentucky Championship Wrestling, and they are based in Lexington. They did shows at the National Guard Armory behind the airport. And I did one show, got hooked. I met a whole bunch of people that eventually I would be working for today. Guys like Kyle Maggard with AMW. He was a wrestler for KCW when I was there. And I remember my very first show, he shot me with a water gun, and then guys like legendary Larry D, who ended up starting Primetime Wrestling and then eventually Generation Next Pro Wrestling. So, people that I would become very familiar with over the years, they were there wrestling on that show. And one thing led to another. I was the ring announcer for KCW. I became the ring announcer for the Mountain Wrestling Association. And then, a whole bunch of different promotions. Primetime Wrestling, when they got going, worked for Southern Wrestling Alliance. I did some work with New South Wrestling before he shut down and got going again later, when I came back with Tony Presley. And of course, the years with Pro Wrestling Freedom, I can't forget about those. I worked for a lot of people, and it just snowballed. And it snowballed so much that I can't even remember everything.
Man, that is a great blessing. One of the things that always, for me, being a wrestling fan, is the preparation when you are being an announcer. Can you expand on what you do personally to get ready for matches?
Well, it depends on my role. If I'm doing commentary or if I'm ring announcing. If I'm doing commentary, one of the things I like to do is I will always reach out to people that I have never called a match for in my life. And I will get, details on their story, where they trained, their background, what kind of storylines we want to hit, what kind of moves do we need to look out for. So I'll do that, make sure there's a lot of preparation there. Of course, any storylines that's going on in the company, I'll always touch base with the promoter and make sure to find out what we really need to hit on. for each show. When it comes to ring announcing, I the thing about ring announcing is it's card subject to change sometimes. So I'll make some index cards that'll have all my info on it for what I need, and then whatever information I already have, I'll go ahead and fill that out. And then whatever information that I need, I get the day of the show, of course. And if it's subject to change, it's subject to change. It happens, and we kind of move on with it. And I'm just ready to go with a blank flashcard, and I'll make sure that I'm ready to go with that. And then, of course, too, I need to check with the promoter for like if there's any matches that are, that I need to get out of the way for. If anything's gonna, if anything wild's happening, do I need to get out of the way? And sometimes I was doing music too, so I would need to know music cues. So I did a little bit of everything.
Oh, wow. So a jack of all trades.
Yeah, master of none.
Hey, there's definitely nothing wrong with that, because if you could do multiple things, you're more valuable than the man that only can do one thing. So
absolutely, and that's something I pride myself on, is knowing how to do multiple things, and where can I step in to help in other places, especially if they have an announcer role filled or commentary role. What else can I do?
So with a lot of people, I know, and again, most people are out to make money.
Oh, yeah.
And as I like to think and tell so many people, wrestling breeds something totally different, because yes, everybody wants to make money. Everybody does. But there is a passion that it's more than just the money. It's the love of the sport, the love of the entertainment that makes us want to do so much more. Would you agree with that?
1000%. If there's always a saying that people have told me, that they said, if you're in the wrestling business to make money, get out now. Because I mean, really, yeah, you're going to make some money. And you're going to be able to, grab a meal and tank of gas and have some leftover spending money and stuff like that, but you're not in it for the money per se. But of course, you will have the shows that are absolutely massive, and you get a nice bonus here and there, and that's wonderful. I would agree that the passion is what drives pro wrestling.
It's one of those things that I've been blessed with, being a fan all my life, and being able to get just a taste of the indie scene and meeting so many great people that it's such a, I guess the word I'm looking for is a great family community that you meet people, they almost instantly become your family, and you're just so looking forward to seeing them. And if you don't see them for a while, when you see them again, it's like, man, I was wondering how you've been doing. And it's just a community that, unless you are a true wrestling fan, you just would not get.
Absolutely correct. I'll say this, when, like I mentioned, when my grandmother passed, back at the end of July, I had a lot of people within this wrestling community reaching out to me. And listen, I didn't make any of it really public online. I talked about it, and, I talked about it with people, but I really never made it public. But the ones that knew about it, they were able to kind of help spread the word a little bit, and help out and send condolences and just check in on me. And that's that sense of community, that I really like. And, some people I talk to on the phone every day. Some people I'll talk on the phone maybe once a week. Some people I don't talk at all, but we'll have massive text conversations. And, that's one thing I love is just, that sense of community. And they really, when you're going through a hard time, that they're there to back you up.
Definitely. Like we talked about off camera, it's just it's a comfortable feeling knowing that someone is looking out for you and want the best for you, and it's just so when you have a lot of weight of the world on you, just to know people care enough to reach out to you is something amazing and great.
Mhm. Absolutely.
So, what was tell me what you think, in your estimation, was your greatest show contribute? And I mean, as far as being the announcer or doing commentary, what is your top show that you feel like there's no way I could ever top this?
Oh man, you're putting me on the spot. I'm going to be honest. There's a lot of stuff, a lot of events that really just stick out to me. I can't put my finger on one saying this is the one, but each of these have an amazing moment or moments that really stick out to me. For example, so I need to give a little bit of a backstory, and I don't think you're aware of this. Some people, there's quite a few people that are, but back in 2021, I was actually on my deathbed. I had a bout of pneumonia that ended up going sepsis, and I was also a diabetic that didn't have my diabetes in check because hadn't been diagnosed at that point. What had happened was I went to urgent treatment. Urgent treatments said, "Hey, we're going to give you an antibiotic, and then we'll give you a steroid." Well, you know what a steroid does to a person with diabetes. That sugar shoots up.
Right.
And that was on a Wednesday. And on Friday, my mother had come over to, kind of check in on me. I don't even remember she was there. I don't remember that. And then Saturday, my wife said, "All right, we're going to the hospital. This is getting a whole heck of a lot worse." I got admitted immediately, and then I was absolutely delirious. And there was one point in time there where they tried to put a CPAP on me. My body freaked out, and that's when it said, "All right, I'm done breathing." And they put me on a ventilator. And I was on a vent for a week. And coming out of that, I knew I got a second lease on life coming out of that. And my father at the time, he wasn't doing really well. And on July 6th, him and my mom had come down to where we live, and they were looking at getting a house down this way. They're ready to move. And we started having a conversation, and one of the conversations was, "Do you miss wrestling?" Because at that point, I was out of wrestling for a while. I'd taken some time off to kind of focus on the family and focus on other careers. And I was out of wrestling. And he asked me, he said, "Do you miss it?" And I said, "Yeah, I do." He said, "I want you to make a promise to me." I said, "What's that?" He said, "If you're able to, and you get the opportunity, I want you to make one more good run at wrestling. I want you to get back into it and do what you love." And the literal next day, he passed away. And to me, that was the sign that, I need to be able to get back out there. I need to get that opportunity, and I'm going to find a way to do it. And so those words stick strong with me. I'm thankful that I got to tell my dad that I loved him on that last day. I'm thankful that we were able to sit down and talk and have that last conversation. And, so I came back after I got a new opportunity at a job, after I recovered, after I went through his funeral. 2021 was not a year for me. Hate it. Don't want to relive it. But in 2021, I came up on Tony Presley again, and we saw each other at another show. And he said, "Hey, I'm thinking about getting New South going again." I said, "Really?" He said, "Yep." He said, "You're kind of the first person I'm thinking about. Would you want to be my ring announcer?" I said, "Let me think about it. Let me think about it." January rolls around to 2022. He said, "All right, man, I'm 2 months from pulling the trigger. You want it?" I said, "I want it." So very first show back. Now, granted, I got a last second call to ring announce for Generation Next Pro Wrestling the month before. So they kind of gave me my warm up and got me back into the flow. And, great memories there. Got to hang with Jack Vaughn, Lord Crew. I'm just like, man, I haven't seen you guys in forever. And then I got a chance to ring announce my first big show back, and that was with Larry D and Billy Gunn in the main event. Chelsea Green was on the card. Let's see here. The boys, the Gun Club, Billy Gunn's sons were on the card. It was an absolutely massive event. And that's one of the ones I'm really, really proud of. Back in 2013, I had another great moment where I was working for Pro Wrestling Freedom, and main event that night was Adam Pearce versus Shane Mercer. And Adam Pearce sought me out after the show, and he said, "Man, you are one hell of an effing ring announcer." And he said, "Keep up the great work." And it was cool because I saw him that was right before he had gone to WWE as an agent. And, I saw him in I think it was 2016, maybe. He was producing a house show, and I went over and said hello to him afterwards. And he just looked at me. He went, "Ring announcer, Corbin, Kentucky." I said, "Yes, sir." So he remembered, and that was really cool. And then there are some shows that I've started to, we talked about me being a jack of all trades, master of none. I've done a lot of work with Appalachian Mountain Wrestling as their producer. And we've produced pay-per-views and events, and it's been wonderful. I've loved it. But one of the events that really stands out to me is War Games. We got to do a War Games event. The Godfather was there. We had a double ring set up, and we packed that gym. It was standing room only.
Wow.
I think it was something like 11 or 1,200 people. And just having that was so cool. And, we're getting ready to do War Games again, and it's going to have Carl Anderson and Doc Gallows there up in Hazard, Kentucky. So, that's another big event I'm looking forward to. We're going to be back this Sunday, we're going to be back in Corbin. A&W is, and we're going to have Carlito versus Stan Sierra. So, and that we're going to kick off season 2 of our TV tapings. And, as a producer for that, I pride myself on that work. And, really, stuff like that, just, it sticks out to me. Generation Next Pro Wrestling, man, they have put on banger after banger after banger. Elite Wrestling Alliance, Next Generation Wrestling down in Tennessee. This past Sunday, myself and Adrian Alexander, we got to call Matt Cross versus Cedric Alexander. Holy moly, what a match!
I don't mean to interrupt you, but
yeah, go for it.
You were in my town. You were in Knoxville.
Yeah,
and I wanted to go to it. Every time they have a show, I always say I'm gonna go, but something always come up, and I had tried to put a little money aside so I could go, and it fell through. I was like, dang it, I'm gonna get there one day. I am.
I have a feeling our next one will either be October or November, but man, Next Generation Wrestling, for me, it's something different because it's more along of your like super indie type show.
Right.
So you're getting a lot more fast-paced moving action, but the crowd down there is absolutely into it. It's something that works. And it works for that promotion. If you're another promotion trying to pull that off, it's not going to work, but for them it does. And we had a whole crew come up from Atlanta, from AR Fox's school. 10 kids came up and they just showed up to put the ring up, take the ring down, and because of their hard work and their dedication, they got a 10-person tag pre-show match, So,
wow.
It's a great time. I love Next Generation Wrestling. I love the venue we're at down there, the Mill and Mine. It's a beautiful venue. I think it was I don't know what it was, like an old tobacco warehouse that was converted into a theater, or not theater, but a concert venue.
It used to be the train station.
Oh, a train station. Okay.
And then they converted it into, it was a train station. Then it went to a warehouse. Then they converted it over, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. And it's over there in the old city.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And we actually did one of my very first shows with Next Generation Wrestling. Was called Nightmare in the Old City, and that was held at Jackson Terminal.
Yes.
Yeah, that was my very first one that I worked with them, and I did that. And then on St. Patty's Day of 2024, we did a no ring, no rule show at a place called the Brickyard Bar and Grill.
Yeah.
You know about that?
Yeah.
And then we did a few more shows at Jackson Terminal, and finally, when Jackson Terminal decided, well, we don't want wrestling anymore, that's when the Mill and Mine stepped in, and it's been a wonderful venue, and the crowds have been great.
Yeah, and this it's so funny that you mentioned you work with them and stuff, because, and I think this started 2 years ago when I really got back into looking at indie shows and everything, and every time I find out they have in the card, it's like I'm going. Something comes up. I have something happen, and I'm gonna have to be super determined. The next show, I will be there.
All right. Well, I'll be looking for you for sure. We'll hang out and talk a little bit because I'll have a little bit of time before the show. But boy, when our shows get going, we don't stop. It rolls right through. And it was a great stack card on Sunday, and and then we had things happen like Sugar Dunkerton decided that he wanted to take out Matt Cross and Cedric Alexander, so we're gonna have to figure out what's going through his mind when we convene again for their next show. So, but yeah, I've on the second run, and the second run of wrestling, I've been really blessed because I've gotten to work with so many different promotions in such a short amount of time. Another one that I failed to talk about is XCF, that's Shane Mercer's promotion. I got to work with his crew a bit, and Bullpen Pro Wrestling, I get to go see them on Saturday up in Louisville, and I've just gotten so lucky, and I've gotten to work with so many different people. Like, there's DJ Eric, he just popped up. Eric Montgomery, I've worked with him from one of the very first times I got into wrestling. Lisa made a comment a little bit earlier, and Lisa is training to be a ring announcer with Generation X, and of course she's been amazing. She is doing great, and I know if I ever can't be at a Generation Next show, she's there to knock it out of the park for me. So, and I've gotten to be around some really great people in wrestling, and again, I'm blessed, and I can't say enough about that. I got that second chance at life, and when I got that second chance at life, I knew that I'm going to make the best of it. And, I've gotten some great opportunities, and I can't wait to keep it going.
That's so great to hear. And I'm so blessed to actually, me and you got to meet, talk a little bit. And one of the things too that I am super big on is promoting local wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can, like, I am a big AEW, WWE, Impact guy, but
we all are.
but the thing is, like I tell anyone, if you want the great experience, especially if you're not a wrestling fan, your first show should be an indie show.
Oh, 100%.
My wife, her first show she ever got to go to was a Crossfire wrestling show.
Yeah.
Me and her were there, and we were sitting on the front row, and she enjoyed herself. It was just one of the amazing things. And one of the funny things is one of the wrestlers, they were brawling outside, and the wrestler got through over the barricade right next to us. So he went to go jump on the barricade and do a springboard. Well, he stepped on my foot.
Oh, no.
Yeah, but he still pulled it off. And
oh, yeah.
Great. And I laughed, and I leaned over to my wife. I was like, he just stepped on my foot. I was like, I'm going to have to get him. Luckily enough, they had intermission, and the wrestler was out talking. I was able to grab him like, man, next time you step on my foot, I'm going to punch you in the face. And he got a kick out of it. Like I said, my wife loves it. And now every time I turn around, babe, when we going to wrestling again? When we going to wrestling again?
Well, you bring her out to the Mill and Mine the next time they come through.
Yeah, definitely will. Definitely will.
You're talking about promoting local wrestling, and I'm going to say without a shadow of a doubt, right now, I feel like we're in a very strong time for independent wrestling. There's a bunch of great promotions out there. There's promotions that are doing big things and are on the verge of doing big things. I want to give a big shout out to the Northern Wrestling Federation, who just had their second Summer Sizzler that was held at Thomas More Stadium up in Florence, Kentucky. You don't get a whole bunch of groups that are able to do a baseball stadium. They're one of them. And, they had such a great deal where they had wrestling every Wednesday night. They called it Wrestling Wednesdays. And they took all those matches, and that's what led up to their big Summer Sizzler event. And, big kudos to them for such an awesome show. That was one of the promotions I got to work for when I was young in my career. And when I came back, I got to work some Summer Sizzlers as a commentator. And, Roger Ruffin has been, an awesome figure to work with, and so is Wildcat Chris Harris, and because he's involved with it up there, and every year they are putting out great crops of wrestlers.
It's so great to see that, and just what I like to call giving back to the business, because not all, but a lot of wrestlers, again, it's not just about the money and the fame, it's the sport of wrestling. And they love to give to the next generation. And and I love to see these younger guys and girls doing their thing, building themselves. And then I'm watching one of the bigger leagues and like, hey, he used to wrestle, and wow, he was good. I really enjoy that. And I think that a lot of people don't recognize that real part of it. They are under the guise that, they came out of WWE's training centers. Well, not necessarily. They had to build, they learned their craft in the indies circuit. And like you said, right now is a great time to be in the independent. It is so big and massive. And as I like to think and say, that we're back in the territorial days, but better, because you have YouTube, different streaming service, so you can follow promotions. And just like our network, the Wrestling Society Network, we try to give promotions a place where you can throw your promotion on and people can follow it all over. I just think it's just a really great time for wrestling.
And you talk about the social aspect of it. You're in a day and age where you're able to promote your product in the best ways possible. I know, with AMW, I swear some of their promotions, the way they promote their product is the best. I think they have a great online presence. They're always putting something out every Tuesday on YouTube. You see multiple tweets, you see Facebook posts, you see Instagram posts. But not only that, they also know the benefit of hitting the pavement and getting out there and promoting on the street too. That's how we get the crowds, is opening up every avenue. Because, when you have a promotion that just does Facebook, well, what about the people who are going to see your posters in stores who may not have Facebook? If you just have people that promote locally and they don't use their Facebook, or they don't use their X or Instagram or anything like that, then how are people going to want to travel if they don't know your product exists? And there are some promotions that just do such a wonderful job at getting the word out in every single way possible. And if you're not using every single way possible, I mean, what are you doing? Thanks for coming to my TED Talk there, but but we're in a day and age where independent wrestling can grow at such a great pace. And you're seeing a whole bunch of wrestlers that are getting developed and becoming better and better and better, and they're hitting the road and going to different promotions and taking all the opportunities. It's great, and I love seeing it. So 100%, this is one of the best times for indie wrestling, I think.
Oh, definitely. It's and we have never been in a situation where you can have wrestling all day, every day, anywhere. And that is something that is so unique that people can take advantage of it. Like you said, if you're not doing everything to promote yourself, your business, you all these different great podcasts, mine's included, that you can go on to promote yourself, to promote your promotion. There's just so much, but you have to be willing to get out there to do the work.
And as individuals involved with the business too, we have to be willing to get in there and promote the product we're going to be on. You know, I try to do at least once a week. You know, hey, this is where I'm going to be this weekend. Then as it gets closer, share the post. And then the day of, hey, I'm here. Make sure you come see us. Going to be an amazing night. You know, it's just, it's taking advantage, you know, of the opportunities that you have. You got to be sure to do your part to help promote what's going on. You know, I'm really, you know, I really kind of gravitate to the people who do that, you know, because I'm one of them. You know, we always want to make sure we always, you know, we want to be as successful as we possibly can. And it takes a team effort. It really does.
Definitely. And that's why I think that's one of the main reasons why I decided I was going to do a podcast, because I wanted to give up and comers a platform to promote themselves, to get practice, to let people know who they are so they can gain a following. I'm not saying that like I'm the king of podcasts or anything towards that, but I definitely know that my presence has been felt. I mean, just for the honor of getting inducted into a Hall of Fame with so many great wrestlers and people who've done so much for the sport. And and even to this day, I'm still so humbled and amazed that I'm recognized with that great of legends. It's just mind blowing to me still. So,
and you know, I think, you know, having that happen, you know, it goes to show the importance of podcasts as well. You know, these podcasts can really help out individuals, can help out, you know, help out the wrestlers, help out the commentators, help out referees, promoters, whoever needs to get on, because there's a good opportunity there for them to express what they need to on the platform. And, you know, we're most definitely thankful for those opportunities.
Oh, and that's, again, for me, it's more of what can I provide for the sport of wrestling that has provided me so much entertainment, so much being able to escape my world for a little while. And it's like, man, I can't wrestle, but I can do this podcast. I can give you my thoughts and opinions from being a wrestling fan for over 50 years. Am I the greatest? No. Do I know everything? No. But I think I have a good insight that is entertaining. And again, to have great guests on it is so amazing and humbling to get to talk to people like yourself and to share stories. And I love it. I think the fans love it. And that's why we, and I do mean we, the wrestling community, will continue to grow and cultivate and take it to the next generation to keep it strong. And we're long after we're gone, wrestling still will live on.
Absolutely. And I'm excited. I really am excited to see what the future of pro wrestling is going to be like. You're going to have a lot of opportunities to, fans will have a lot of opportunities to go see a lot of their favorite wrestlers now before they get into the big time. As you mentioned earlier, one of the best ways to get into wrestling, go to an indie show. And two, another way to think about it, I know people with some major sensory issues or overwhelming, being overwhelmed to crowds. My own kid can get overwhelmed by crowds very easily. So we kind of ease her into different things that we do. Big step that we took was earlier this year. I took her to her first professional hockey game up in Cincinnati and for the Cyclones. And that was, a major step. Indie wrestling can be good in the sense that you would be able to see what a live show is about, but not get overwhelmed by 15,000 people sitting around you. You're going to have smaller crowds. You want those crowds to get big, but you're not going to be on the WWE, AEW style of crowd yet. And that's a good way to see this is what pro wrestling is about at the bare bones, at the minimum, and then you move your way up to different shows. And then finally you can get to, as a fan, you can get to WWE, AEW, TNA, all those, excuse me. And, they, and you get indie wrestling anywhere. You really can, just, you got to look. If you don't know where to look, hop online and ask in forums, hey, where's my closest wrestling promotion to where I'm at? And you're going to get answers, and you're going to get it 100%.
Oh, and one of the best places I know on Facebook is the Wrestling Society network. That's a plug. Yes, it's a plug. I remember Brady. Don't think I didn't. So, and that's the thing. It's so many different places and spaces. The only thing, a lot of times, if you put in local wrestling, it will pop you up so many different options and things. It's out there, and like you were alluding to, there's no excuse. You can find it. You put in just a tad bit of effort, bam, it's right there for you.
You're absolutely correct. And I'm blessed to be almost all around this entire state. I do shows in Louisville, I do shows in Eastern Kentucky, I do shows in Central Kentucky, Southern Kentucky. I'm pretty sure the only place I haven't done a show in a long time is out in Western Kentucky, but it goes to show that you got promotions everywhere. And, I know, especially in this state, Tennessee is flush full of wrestling. You got to look at let's see here. Well, you got like Next Generation Wrestling. You got, I'm talking about Tennessee, We got Next Generation Wrestling. You got NWA, JCP, Crossfire. Go over to Nashville. You got groups like startup groups like New Sound Wrestling and Pro Wrestling Symphony. You really do have a lot of opportunities.
Oh yeah, Smoky Mountain Pro.
Smoky Mountain Pro. Yep.
It's out there. And one thing too, another great thing that I love, that you have the ability to find things back when we were younger. You had to hunt. It wasn't like wrestling was accepted as the norm, and they were very closed off. You had to be smart to be in the business. It wasn't just, I could get online and find this. No.
You're right. You're right. And yeah, wrestling is a lot more open these days. It is, but as you know, as there's promoters out there and stuff like that too, they've got to be also responsible enough to know, you know, who can cut it and who can't cut it, and they need to be responsible to know, you know, if somebody's been bad news somewhere else, do you really want them in your area? You know, so yes, it's more open, but the responsibility is also that much higher.
Definitely. And it, like see and talk about, you are taking someone else's life in your hands.
Hmm.
If you're not serious and ready for that type of responsibility, don't do it. This is no, wrestling is not a joke. It's
You're
not,
absolutely correct.
is no way. If you're not responsible, please do not even venture into it.
Absolutely correct.
Well, Aaron, man, it's been great. I'm again always glad to have a conversation with you. I'm super thankful that you're willing to do it. And before we wrap up, what would be your advice for a young man or a young woman who want to get in the business? What would be the advice you would give them?
Anybody wanting to get into the business, as a wrestler, find reputable schools, schools that can 100% guide you in the right direction, teach you the ins and outs of the business, and teach you how to do things safely. Because again, that's going to be something that people look at as you grow throughout your career. If you are wanting to become an announcer or commentator, still look at these schools. I got into wrestling so unconventionally because of my outside experience. But as I did that, I was paying my dues and everything like that too. You know, I learned the things I need to do to be successful, and how to work in this industry and work in it as a whole. You know, I did a lot of behind the scenes stuff. I did a lot of on camera stuff. I've done a lot of announcing, commentating. Anything to make yourself valuable is the way to go, especially when you are in a role like mine, because our roles are a lot more limited. There's not, you know, 20 announcers at every show. You're going to have one or two, maybe 3, 4 announcers, you know, and, you know, that's talking about ring announcers and commentators, you know, the whole team. So, you know, you got to make sure you show that you're valuable in what you do. And also in being valuable too, you also want to make sure that, that you're personable, and you want to make sure in this industry that you are somebody that people can come to, because if not, it's hard to be in it if you can't be a personable person, because you're going to be running into a lot of people all the time. And, you know, some people you're not going to like. And if you don't like them, cool, still be professional. I've been lucky enough to not have to deal with that. And, you know, I'm, you know, again, I just love what I'm doing in this industry. And, that's my advice. If you're going to be on an off or non-wrestling role, do everything you can to help out in that promotion.
I love it. That is great advice. Again, I thank you for doing the show. I thank you for being the great person that you are. Again, I thank you for your role in helping me get my Hall of Fame award. And as I always tell everybody, you are so welcome anytime. You just let me know. We can talk about anything, promote anything you like. Open invitation.
Awesome. I'd love to hop on and and talk more with you guys. You know, again, absolute blast. And, you know, that's the thing about that I love about these podcasts is just, you know, when you can make it easy for your guests to come on and keep it as a great conversation. I love that. And you did exactly that. And, you know, I really appreciate you having me. This has been great. I will definitely come back.
Thank you. Thank you. Guys, girls, thank you so much, as always, for rocking with the professor. And we will be back and hopefully continue growing and continue getting guests that you want to see, hear from. We are about wrestling. So once again, for my guest, Aaron Rose, I am your professor, Professor Barrett. And this has been, once again, it has been a Bear's Thoughts. Thank you so much.